please tell me if you're watching this or will be watching this in the future, how you're liking this. This is two things. Number one, live, so sometimes I might make mistakes in conversation. Number two, especially as I'm waiting for anyone to jump on. The second thing is that I'm doing this in portrait mode, not landscape. Tell me what you think of that, especially if you're watching this later, after this is streamed. So yesterday I did it live concerning the fact that atheism, i.e. naturalism, in this situation, can't explain reality very well at all. So I seen one person jumping on. Hey, how you doing? Feel free to comment down below. And then I got some responses to that video from yesterday. So I want to maybe discuss that quickly here. The first comment this person made: atheism doesn't promote itself as having the answers, especially not all the answers. It just rejects unfalsifiable claims. But here's an unfalsifiable claim that a lot of atheists make. From my experience, from dealing with atheists in life and in social media, the explanation they often give is naturalism will eventually explain it. No, we don't know the origin of life, but naturalism will someday give us the answers. That's unfalsifiable, and it's also a naturalism of the gaps type of argument. So it's a logical fallacy. So it doesn't, and I argue that naturalism will never explain the origin of life, just because it doesn't have the tools available to explain some of these items. Another item that he said is, I don't know, is a perfectly fine answer. I don't know. Also, it must be X or will never be a good answer. But here's the thing. I don't know is fine, because I don't know a lot in my life because I just don't know certain things. However, when we have a good explanation for something, when we have solid evidential reasons to believe something is true, then we should accept those answers. If you're saying that only answers that end in that are only answers of number 4 are unacceptable because they happen to be 4, are unacceptable, then whenever I say what's 2 + 2, you'll always get the wrong answer. But we know a good answer, that's 4. A logical, consistent, cogent answer is 4. Now you might say, I don't believe that. Fine, but that is a good answer and it should be accepted. So we really do have good answers for some of these topics, such as the origin of life, such as origin of information within the cells. We can talk about cellular reproduction, human reproduction, mammalian reproduction. It doesn't matter. These answers really do have good solid grounding within a Christian worldview, unlike a naturalistic framework. So he next goes on to say, a godless world makes much more sense than a world that contains God due to Occam's razor. All right, so here's the deal. Great. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I might be able to explain something super simple, like, oh, life just randomly came out of nothing, like just popped into existence. That's a much simpler answer than any other answer out there. But if it doesn't hold up under tough scrutiny, if that's not enough of an answer to explain things, then that's not a cogent and consistent answer with reality. So just because it's a simple answer doesn't make it a true answer. What makes it true is actually if the evidence points to it and if it actually fits reality. So great, but naturalism doesn't explain certain things like this. Some people are commenting, hey, how are you doing? So, okay. Okay, so next one. A good enough uncaused, he says this confuses me a little bit. He says this: a good enough uncaused cause, powerful enough to create at least one universe, is a simpler explanation than an eternal, perfect, and omnipotent being. But that's what we mean by God. That's what we mean. We mean not only eternal God, but we mean an uncaused cause. So that's what God is, an uncaused first cause. He's eternal though, and he has a intelligence as well. So I don't know exactly what he's doing, but yes, naturalism does not have this, but Christianity does, theism does. All right, the next point that he makes that I'm kind of responding to: Christianity doesn't explain the origin of life, it just presupposes an answer. Well, actually, Christianity does give an answer for this, and that is that there is an eternal first cause, uncaused first cause, that does explain the origin of life. We find it in Genesis and in other parts of Scripture that talks about this. But this is what we see in the reality. So think about this. Christianity talks about a super intelligent being, uncaused first cause, and this first being, this eternal being, set into motion the universe, the fine-tuned universe that is capable of supporting life and housing life, and also created the earth, living beings, life in general, and human beings that are free agents and conscious. This is what the Bible talks about, these types of things. So Christianity actually does explain these things, and that is actually the best explanation. That's actually the best explanation. Okay, and lastly, I want to talk about the very last topic that he brings up, and this is this. Without any reliable evidence of any specific deity affecting anything in any way, I don't see a deity as a viable option. Well, without any reliable evidence, there's massive evidence for a deity, for deity in general, and for the Christian God specifically. For example, life itself is evidence. This is what we've been talking about both yesterday and today in the lives. Life itself points to the creator. Naturalism intrinsically doesn't have the explanatory power to tell us how life came about on planet Earth. You can talk about the RNA first, theory, or any other theory you want. You need to talk about DNA first, or protein first, or any of the other ways of trying to explain it, but it doesn't explain it. So also, it doesn't explain things like reproduction. It doesn't explain things like a molecular machine. And when I talk about molecular machines, I'm not talking about these simple machines. I'm talking about these super complex machines that are not only just as complex as the machines that we design and make, but they are microscopic in size. And they're part of the reproduction process, which is another whole level of complexity. Okay, so machine design, we talked about not only machine design, because I do machine design, so I know the complexity, and I'm a biologist as well. So these things actually overlap greatly. Also, other lines of evidence that this person seems to miss is the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ and near-death experiences. I think I mentioned this yesterday, that near-death experiences actually do point to God's existence. Or at least some sort of supernatural realm, where someone passes away on, let's say, a hospital bed, their physical body is sitting there, and then they come back a while later, half an hour later, 15 minutes later, whatever it is, and they're like, hey, I left my body, which is a subjective experience, but then they give an objective, physical, something physical and objective that we can actually check out, like saying like, oh, on top of the hospital roof, there's a pair of shoes up there. And people go up there, and sure enough, there's a pair of shoes. Like, that's a classic example of something that happens where this person is not supposed to know from a physical perspective, know something that's actually happening away from his or her body after they pass away. Now, then they come back, then they explain this stuff. So this is really curious information that's tangible and that we can actually touch and research. Also, I do think, like I said yesterday too, prophecy and fulfilled prophecy, number one, and number two, I think miracles in general as well. Like I've given this example before on my YouTube channel. I have some other one guy that came in and talked on this topic. It's about a Muslim that came to Christ. You'll find it a year or two ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I invited him to my channel to give his testimony, and he talks about in his testimony how that different things happened in his life. Not only did he see visions of Jesus, which is quite interesting, being a Muslim man, he wouldn't want to, but also he experienced real, like, tangible healings, like real tangible miracles where he should not have been healed. I mean, and I've given other examples too of that one pastor. I think his name is Dwayne Miller, whose voice was healed miraculously and unexpectedly. And this was recorded and in front of a large group of people. Okay, so I'm signing off here now. Tell me what you think of this. Do you like these lives? Because this is the second live I've done. Number one. Number two, tell me what you think of this portrait mode. Do you like portrait mode, or do you like landscape? Portrait seems to work better because I can see people's comments easier. But if you really like landscape, feel free to tell me down below, either in the live or actually once I post this, repost this as a video. Tell me what you think, whether that's the video format later or this live. All right, I'm out of here. You guys have a great rest of your day.